There's been a public outcry about corruption in Zimbabwe. This new dispensation has played a key role in trying to curb it. The previous dispensation did not allow the prosecution of political heavyweights. The new dispensation is going against all criminals who break the law. And they are supporting financially, administratively, the anti-corruption drive. But there are people in this country who are attempting to make it look like all our problems have been caused by corruption and not sanctions. And these people are led by the American ambassador, Brian Nichols. We all know the letter he wrote, where he was trying to blame SADC for supporting Zimbabwe and blaming corruption. So obviously, the agents of imperialism in the MDC alliance have taken it upon themselves to give the impression that it is only corruption, but corruption taken by being done by ZANU-PF. That's very far from the truth. And I want Zimbabweans to understand something. Is it a coincidence that there's some alleged COVID corruption in South Africa at the same time as they are falsely alleging there's been COVID corruption in Zimbabwe? What we are hoping to do today is that we want to let Zimbabweans know that all the corruption in this country is of two kinds. Political corruption is being handled by the MDC Alliance, and their supporters are also involved in thefts of hundreds of millions of dollars from the Zimbabwean state and government resources. One of our affiliate organizations in Bulawayo, called the Bulawayo Development Association, has told us that there has been a government investigation before this new dispensation against the corruption in Bulawayo City Council, where the MDC set up companies in South Africa and made sure that Bulawayo City Council sent money to South Africa. The companies were formed by Roy Bennett when he was the treasurer for MDC. The team was composed of Engineer Hungwe, who was at that time Director of Engineering Services for the Ministry of Local Government, Mr. Zimati, Director Quantity Surveying, Mr. Mazinga Iso, Deputy Director Every Local Authorities, Mr. Nguni, Chief Internal Auditor at the Ministry of Local Government, Mrs. Chembwa, Principal Administrative Officer, State Land Management, Mr. Chuma, the Legal Officer, Mr. Maurukira, who was the Secretary at the Ministry of Local Government. The terms of reference of this investigation was to interrogate Council's pricing model for land and stands and to verify whether Council followed due diligence in the procedures of pricing and disposal modalities of stands to councillors, MDC Alliance councillors, management and public in general. Now, about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, a meeting was held with some senior officials at Harvest House about how they were going to fund the MDC Alliance, the MDC. The MDC at that meeting promised that they would tell their urban councils which they control to give land, and when those companies sold the land, they would then pay some money to the MDC. I'm not going to go into the details of how hundreds of millions worth of dollars of stands were given to companies by the MDCT to fund their operations of destabilization. A company called Bulawayo Glass and Allied Products were offered 80 residential stands and 6 townhouses in Sebon Park in Bulawayo. They were expected in terms of the agreement to fully service the area with sewer, water and roads. The developer, that's Bulawayo Glass and Allied Products, was unable to fully service its development. The developer, that is this company, owed council more than $200,000 US. He at that stage applied to council for allocation of state number 14300 Selwood Park for the development of townhouses. The basis of this application was that he would use the proceeds from the new development to finish off development of the 80 stands that had previously been allocated. Initially, his application was rejected by council, since applications for such pieces of land should go through tender. Bulawayo Glass and Allied Products appealed against the decision, stating that they had secured a line of funding from NASA to the tune of $2 million. This was also false. The plea was circulated to management, and management, Bulawayo City Council, rejected, citing that this company was owing the Bulawayo City Council lots of money, and that they had been given land, 80 residential stands, which they had not sold or developed, and they may have sold it. An appeal was made to the Bulawayo City Council, and the Town Lands and Planning Committee recommended that the application by Bulawayo Glass and City should be given, and council allegedly gave them further land. This was after the intervention of senior officials of the MDCT in Harare. This is what the investigating team found out. Bulawayo City Council disposed of stand 14300 Selwood Park to Bulawayo Glass and Allied Products without going to tender, in violation of their own procedures on disposal of such stands. There was blatant disregard of technical advice offered by council officials in approving the sale of land to Bulawayo Glass and Allied Products, and that the developer still owed council more than $150,000. So the MDC council there, in order to fund MDC operations, gave this company 80 residential stands and gave them further 20 hectares of land without paying for the first stands to this company, against council regulations and procedures. These are people who are shouting a lot these days about corruption. There was a deputy mayor of Bulawayo City Council, was allegedly allocated stands number 18827 Ascot Racecourse on 6th May 2015. The council resolution was dated 6/5/2015. This highlights that there was a retrospective application of the circular to the deputy mayor's application and allocation of said land. Council disposal procedures would require that the sale of such stand be done through a tender system. This position was disregarded, specifically for the disposal of the stand to Councillor Gift Banda. Gift Banda was at that time the MDC provincial chair in Bulawayo and deputy mayor of the council. The investigating committee discovered that before they gave the mayor this stand, the Bulawayo City Council had incurred costs on the development of the road leading to the property, whilst there are other surrounding roads which also needed attention, but they were not given such attention. The committee, the investigating committee, also found out that this councillor, Gift Banda, started development on the same stand by putting up a perimeter wall without an approval of such plans by council, which is a requisite requirement. Simultaneously, there was an application to lease the land construct a social club between 2nd and 4th Avenue along Simon Palenyatwa Street in Bulawayo by a company called Entertainment Headquarters. This application was presented by a company directly linked to Gift Banda, who was then the Deputy Mayor and Provincial Chair of the MDC Alliance. It is indicated by Bulawayo City Council, in order to protect themselves, that Councillor Gift Banda had recused himself from deciding on this matter. The allegation is that the Deputy Mayor, even though he recused himself, may have influenced the councillors to give this list to his company. The said list was done without following laid down procedures, which include tender. There's a councillor, James Stolle, I think he's now a member of parliament. He was allocated the townhouse stand number 15943 Parklands in Bulawayo. This allocation by Bulawayo City Council was done in the name of ministerial directive, even though it amounts to a stretching of the definition of a commercial stand as envisaged in the council, in the council secular. The Bulawayo City Council went ahead and gave this stand to Councillor Stolle. People who are not related to Councillor James Stolle have taken over this building. It's not clear whether they bought the stand from Councillor Stolle or they are related to him. At the end of this, I will tell you what we are proposing that should be done. Councillor James Stolle is also linked to other stands. List 48, Dunstall Urban Agriculture, 3.5 hectares. Stand number 42093, Flea Market in Makukoba. List shop 30/41 in Makukoba, allocated to this council. It becomes very clear that the Bulawayo City Councillor was using his position to make money for himself. This is corruption of the highest order. Councillor Sheila Msonda, in Ward 8 in Bulawayo, was awarded a public toilet to charge people going into a public toilet directly without going to tender. This same councillor was illegally also awarded a commercial stand number 4223 in Keta 7. Councillor Norman Mhlaben, Ward 26. This councillor was given stand number 9056 Nguni, stand number 7071 Nguni, stand number 18768 for the purposes of a car wash, stand 6970 Nguni, and list number 47 Urban Agriculture in Dunstall. It becomes very clear that these stands either belonged to these councillors or they were being given to them to sell, and the money goes to the MDCT. Because on a national level, Gift Banda was the deputy treasurer of the MDC. There's a councillor called Rodney Jele, Ward 22, stand number 9434 Nguni. List number 50, Urban Agriculture in Dunstall. List number 471, Machum Lope, Residential. These were all allocated to one councillor, to Jele. He was allocated a school stand. There was no development plan, no project proposal on the file. He has not paid a single cent towards the purchase of the lease of all these. He owes council more than $25,000. This is as 5, 6, 7 years ago. The value has gone up. The council should have enforced a sale agreement provision on the school stand, which says that if you don't develop your stand within such amount of time, you lose the stand. Councillor Cyrus Chigora, Ward 4. He has not paid anything in lease rentals or anything towards the purchase of the stand. He was given stand number 14347 Selborne Park. On this stand, different people, not Cyrus Chigora, are on that stand. Right? We don't know whether he sold the stand, but he's not paid Bulawayo City Council. Councillor Lillian Mulilo, Ward 12. She owes council more than $12,000. She was given stand in Dunstall Farm, and she has not paid a cent. Maybe she has paid now, but she has not yet paid. Councillor Ernest Rafamoy, Ward 20. He was given 3 stands. He has not paid for stand 16831 and in Kurumani, and he owes council more than 40,000. Councillor Mlandungube, Ward 1. He was given Lot 74 and 324 Sunningham. He owes council for the purchase of the stand and has not started utilizing the agricultural stand. But there are people working on it who don't know who they are paying the rentals for using that stand. It becomes very clear that more than 25 of the 28 councillors in stands, I don't want to go through them because they all owe money. I don't know if anybody thinks that I should give you the names of the councillors. Okay. More than,
you would leave your statement.
Right?
You would leave your statement and the journalists would pick them up from your statement.
Okay. It's very clear that hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars have been used by the Bulawayo City Councillors corruptly. And the Bulawayo Development Association is very concerned about this. And they are concerned because this happened during the time of the previous government. They did this investigation, discovered all these things here, and nothing has actually happened. I will tell you what we want to do. Now, the biggest scandal of them all is this one. A former councillor called Edward Manning, who was no longer a councillor, was sold a stand and given a 40% discount. He is said to have benefited from a ministerial directive of 2015, yet he had ceased to be a sitting councillor. Now let me just give you some more information about corruption in Bulawayo City Council. I told you that people would come and negotiate in Harare with harvest house, with senior officials of MDC. Then MDC would give instructions to Bulawayo City Council. I will tell you at the second stage about what they were doing with other urban councils just now. Let's deal with Bulawayo now. A company called Kanyisile Enterprises has been given many contracts by Bulawayo City Council. In order for them to fix up a bulldozer owned by Bulawayo City Council, they were paid in advance $73,000 to fix a bulldozer of the council. They are not the guys who are the agents for that bulldozer. And this investigation went to Bulawayo and found out that this bulldozer never even left the workshop. Bulawayo City Council have got an excellence insurance company guarantee that in case something goes wrong with this money, you can come to claim with us. You can give them the money in advance. They have not up to the time of this report, they had not done that to collect the money. Another company was given a contract to fix up a crematorium in the cemetery. We paid in advance. Also, following instructions from the MDCT in Harare, the crematorium was not delivered to Bulawayo City Council, but we paid in advance. At one time, Bulawayo City Council did not have an ambulance. Ambulances were bought and paid for. A South African company was paid money to provide Bulawayo City Council with these ambulances. The company was set up in South Africa by Roy Bennett. Bulawayo City Council was one of the companies that were giving money to that South African company. Up to date, the ambulances have not been delivered. Now, we're talking about Bulawayo City Council. We want to eradicate corruption. The same thing that was happening in Bulawayo was happening in Harare, where MDCT members and officials were given stands for speculative purposes. Chamisa was given a stand in Ganyo. He was not on the waiting list. Now, there are conditions to these arrangements when you are given a stand. For years, that stand was being kept there. I'm not sure whether it has not been sold, but he was given a stand in a corrupt manner. Somebody at the Harare City Council should not have given him because he was not on the waiting list. His brother was also given a stand. He was not on the original waiting list. The waiting list has got more than 20,000 people. But many officials from the MDC have been given stands, even though they have nothing to do with the Harare City Council. And we hope that the government and the police will investigate this kind of corruption. Now, the MDC Grand Council in Harare has been buying water chemicals to purify the water. Firstly, there's something that we would like to bring to the attention of the state. A couple of years ago, somebody brought cyanide from South Africa together with water purification chemicals. Because what the MDC wanted to do was to kill hundreds of thousands of people so that they can get United Nations to be involved in here. Somebody was arrested, the owner of the trucks and other things. I don't know what happened to that case, but thank God, other government agencies have now taken over the security of water purification chemicals. Whenever MDC officials wanted money, they would go to their councils, whenever they have been set up companies to do business with our councils, with the urban councils. So there was a young lady who was studying in Australia. She ran out of money. She asked her father that, look, I need money. And the father said, okay, somebody will contact you from Harare City Council. Go to a company that makes water purification chemicals in Australia. These are chemicals that you find in Zimphos. You find them in Zimphos. And you find them in South Africa. This young lady in South Africa, she had so much power, she had 5 people from the Harare City Council fly to Australia to go and look for the water purification companies that are there, to justify giving the contract to this young lady. What then happened is that Mr. Shobo, who was Director of Engineering Services and Water, whatever, gave a contract to this lady and her husband. Her husband was called Jaba, Changirai's daughter. Now, there's allegations that actually they never even received the water purification chemicals, they never came, but they paid lots of money to this company that was formed by the husband or by Jaba herself. Leave Harare for a second. in this whole team. Mutare City Council, Urban Council, they have also been doing the same thing. They were giving stands to people to sell, to make money for the MDC. Rusape Town Council, they were doing the same thing. Chebutu, Kwekwe, Kadoma, Gweru, Vic Falls were all giving stands to senior MDC officials, and they were being resolved. How were they being resolved? We sell one stand to Mr. ABC, who's a leading official in the MDC. He looks for a buyer, he sells it in US dollars. Then we are going to another corruption, another story that we're coming to now. When then somebody comes, pays the US dollars, I don't know whether they pay them in Zimbabwe or outside the country in US dollars. They make a declaration to Zimbra that the land was sold for a ridiculously low figure in bond. They paid the capital gains tax in bond. There are many senior MDC officials who have done this. Now, the lawyers who are doing conveyancing are very in the last 10, 15 years and follow the money trail. They will find out that these lawyers who are doing conveyancing would sell a land for 200,000, a house for 200,000, declare that they sold it for 100,000 bond notes, pay capital gains tax 5% of that money, and then either the 200,000 US dollars will be paid less the expenses of the lawyers, and it will be externalized. So we hope the government will launch an investigation into change of ownership of stands countrywide, including members of this infamous G40. They've sold their houses recently. In Vinona, I think Minister Mzembe, former Minister Mzembe, has sold his house there. And we want to know in what currency he paid that money. What was he paid? We hope the police will follow the payment of that money by going to the lawyers, and the lawyer is Job Scholar. By going to Job Scholar to find out how he paid the money, how he completed the sale, where was the money deposited when he was paid. Now, lastly, the Law Society of this country has been very busy in the last couple of days talking about corruption left, right, and center. For the last 15 to 20 years, more than 100 lawyers have been deregistered by the Law Society of Zimbabwe. They've been deregistered because they committed fraud. Some of them committed corrupt acts, some of them stole from their clients. They never reported any of them to the police. So we are appealing to the government to look at the special relationship between the law society and our laws in this country. We cannot have a law society that condones some of the things that have been happening. Lastly, Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. We want to ask the government to look at the finances of Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights and find out whether this is not how their money is being brought into the country. Because at different times you see people on the streets with brand new US dollar notes. Somebody is importing brand new $100 bills and new notes to sell on the black market, to create economic chaos. I would not be surprised if we were to find out that their money is coming from the Americans via Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. That is the press that I wanted to give to you. I don't know if anybody has any questions, any clarifications. Yeah.
I just wanted to find out whether the series of cases of corruption that you just alluded to, whether you bothered to report them to the Zimbabwean Corruption Commission.
we've not done that because we've just received this from Bulawayo. So we've not done that. But I'm very sure that if the Zimbabwean corruption were to hear of this, they will take immediate action. Because knowing that they are being supported by the government to fight against corruption, they will not cover up. They will investigate all this stories. And this report is the Ministry of Local Government. They have it. So I hope somebody is going to call the Ministry of Local Government to say, you have a report of this kind of corruption. What have you done? Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know whether Dr. or Mr.
Nguni, Mr.
Okay. You have highlighted one strand of corruption in Zimbabwe. And at one point in time, you sat in a board whose function, constitutionally mandated, is to deal with corruption in Zimbabwe. To show your sincerity, during your term, what did you do?
We were not allowed by the previous government to arrest ministers or government officials. You all know what they were doing to me when I was a commissioner. Mpoko, Jonathan, and all the other ministers were not allowed by the president then to arrest.
So, is it your submission that you were in a constitutional board and you took directives when you should have been independent?
No. We did not take directives from anyone, but we were just not allowed to arrest.
Did you need someone's permission?
Yes.
Who's?
We did not have arresting powers. The arresting powers were elsewhere, and we were not getting. And if a minister steals money, you have to get somebody from the government to say that minister did steal the money when you go to court. So, what I'm saying is this: we were not allowed by the previous government to do what we were supposed to do. Unlike now, where the government is now allowing ZACC to do their work, we were not allowed to do that.
And for the record, how many dockets did you do that were refused to be prosecuted when your commission was there?
I think it's fair to ask the chairman of when I was there, because I was just one of the 9 people who were there. It would be very unfair for me to start talking on that behalf. You must look for the chairman and ask him to how many dockets. But I am telling you now that we were not allowed to arrest Jonathan Moyo for the fraud that he took. We couldn't. We were dribbled left, right, and center that you can't arrest him and put him behind bars because the president is going to blow away with him.
Just testing your sincerity.
Yeah. We were not allowed to arrest. But now, the new commission which is there is very lucky. They are being supported all the way.
Okay, maybe to follow up on this person.
Yeah.
You told us that you were not allowed to arrest Jonathan Moyo. Who gave you this directive?
To do what?
Not to arrest Jonathan Moyo?
But the former president never allowed us to. But first of all, I want to put it on the record for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to put it on the record. It was the former president who told us to investigate Jonathan for the Zim death. I didn't want that to be the main focus because
Okay,
it's been,
but it just came out, eh?
It was the former president who told us to investigate Jonathan because he was not happy with Jonathan's machinations. So after we investigated, we just couldn't get hold of him. We had Poko. You all know what I was saying about me, attacking me left, right, and center, that I've been sent by this one. We just couldn't. The former president didn't want us to arrest him.
Yeah, I'm a freelance journalist. So, Mr. Nguni, are you saying the sanctions which you have?
There are no sanctions that are affecting the country. That is actually corruption. And I'm saying to you that it is all lies. The sanctions have also led to some of the corrupt activities of some people as well. And I'm also saying to you that those agents of imperialism in the MDC alliance have been engaged in corruption themselves to make money for themselves. That's what I'm saying to you. There's no other question? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.